All right, founders, it is time for another pitch deck critique and review. And this time we have a pre-seed deck. This is pre-seed, and they are trying to raise $675,000. And this is special because I'm going to show you a before and after. And we are going to give you the results, and you can be the judge on whether this pitch deck is improved or not. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If you have a pitch deck out there that you want critiqued and reviewed, stay till the end of the video. I'm going to give you instructions. If we've met before, just skip using the chapter markers to the best part of the video. Get right into the pitch deck critique and review. I've made it as easy as possible for you to get there. If we have not met before, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits, and that's just a fancy way of saying I've failed a bunch of times to your benefit, because I like to use videos like this and my entire channel to try and help founders, especially early stage founders raising early stage capital, avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made in my day. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier. It's hard enough as it is. I'm also the Chief Strategy Officer for Startups.com. I have raised over $100 million from my startups, other people's startups, as well as startup funds, and we are here to help you. If you're part of Startups.com, thank you so much for being part of the community. Look forward to helping you out. While you're here, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think and these types of videos, and I'll be sure to try and get more of this content out for you. Let's jump into this pitch deck critique and review. This is a travel tech startup, and it involves providing a solution for hospitality providers. And so we've got the title of the company, we've got Away Together, that's the name, and then we've got this slogan here, a smart tech solution for every host. Does this tell me what this startup does? Not really. Therefore, you want a tagline that investors can understand right out of the gate. Even if you have a purpose type statement or something like your mission, it still needs to be very clear in terms of what industry you are in and what you are doing. This gets close. I would say it's about 50% there, but it can be improved, and I'll show you how I improved it. Now we get to the problem slide. First off, problem, this word being the biggest and taking the most attention, that's not what you want to do. You want to make it small, and you want to have it just be tiny in the top corner to let investors know where they are. And then we have this summary sentence, which should be the biggest font right at the top, a stark summary sentence as your headline. And it says here, travelers' experiences are fragmented across multiple platforms, causing a host to fall short in engaging guests effectively. This is vague. There's not a lot of details. I say this all the time. In your problem statement, you need to say who has the problem. You need to explain the size of the problem or how many have the problem, the scope, why that problem exists, and the severity, what that problem is costing if we do not solve it. And we've got these bullet points down here, but it's hard to understand at the same time. Current marketing methods are outdated, ineffective, and non-sustainable. What does that have to do with experiences across multiple platforms? Not sure. There's not a connection that I can see right away. I do know, because I have inside information about the connection that is trying to be communicated, but it's not being communicated effectively. 93% of hosts with insufficient resources to engage their guests digitally and in real time. How many is that? Is that 93 out of 100? That's not a big enough market. That's not a startup. 20% revenue foregone due to lack of traveler awareness of offerings. This gets a little bit better, but it's still 20%. How much revenue is that? So we are not being exact with the numbers, and investors don't like to work with these percentages because they're missing information. Is this $1 million, $20 million, $2 billion? Is it 93 people or 9,300 people or 93 million people? We don't know what this is, and therefore you're not talking the language of investors. You're not giving them what they need to get excited about this opportunity. I'll show you how I fixed it. Here's the solution statement. Once again, we're going to make this small to the left, and the summary statement, which again is supposed to be stark right at the top, an all-in-one travel app delivering real-time insights, live connections, direct host engagement that transforms travel planning, on-site experience, and post-trip sharing. That's a little better. At least we know what this is. It's an all-in-one travel app, and a lot of founders get right into what the benefit is versus what it is. And therefore, we can just say an all-in-one travel app. And at least it says this is how we solve the problem: real-time travel insights, live connections, direct host engagement that transforms travel planning. I don't like the word transform travel planning. What does that mean? That's a catchy buzzword. On-site experience and post-trip sharing. For what benefit? Why is this important? Well, we're trying to get to these statements down here. And once again, we're in percentages, which is not going to help me. 81% of travelers want to use applications to streamline their travel. That actually should be in the problem statement. That's not a solution. 98% of travelers who say receiving real-time updates improves their satisfaction level. All right, that's another problem. But we're not talking about how we actually solve this problem right here in terms of this dimension. $794. At least we're getting to a hard number. Average increased spend when traveler can live like a local. What does that mean? We put this in parentheses. How is this all attached here? All the raw material is here. This is why I got involved with these founders. They're very thoughtful. I know it's all there, but the internal reality of what they think and the external perception of what I'm picking up in this slide is not coming across from an investor's perspective. Once again, I'll show you how I change this. Now we're getting to the product slide. This technically should be a how it works slide. Just put that together, and it should happen after the market slide, but we'll fix that in the future. But how it works is the slide right here, and we have Away Together is customizable SaaS mobile for hosts that allows for real-time communication between guests as well as the hotel and supporting local businesses. You're not telling me anything that you haven't said already. This is not a how it works slide. This is just a rehash of the solution slide. In fact, I would say this is a little bit of a better solution slide than what we had previously. And you've got all these additional concepts that we have not actually mentioned yet. Cultural accessibility. What is that exactly? Real-time communication. We've already repeated that, so we don't have to say it anymore. Increased guest satisfaction. We're repeating this again. Upsell opportunities. Repeating this again. Engagement. Nostalgia. Where does that come into play? Safe guest-to-guest communication. Now, is this a safety app? I don't understand. Was safety part of the problem? Then why are we mentioning it in the product? Therefore, we've got all these aspects of the app that I know are important. These are important, but they're not focused enough to tell the investor this is a great investment opportunity. We're introducing so many factors, so many concepts that you're creating cognitive friction for the investor. Yes, I get it. Eventually, the investor is going to want to know it does all these things. But right now, they just want to know the problem, the solution, and how it works in a unique way, in a streamlined method as possible to get them excited. Don't overload it. The more you talk during a pitch and the more you put on your pitch deck, the higher the chance that you have of saying something to the investor or showing them something that they either disagree with, causes them confusion, or they think completely differently, and they're just not going to understand how you're going about it. And you don't want to put yourself in that situation where now there's more friction. Don't give them a reason to be distracted. That cognitive load, cognitive friction that makes the investor work harder than they should be just saying, wow, it's a no-brainer, looks unique, I understand the problem, looks like a really big market, and then get them to the meeting that you're going to have after you send this introductory screener deck, because this deck is not designed to get the investment decision. It's designed to get the next meeting. So many founders say, I got to tell the investor everything so that they understand everything and that we're really good. The investor wants to know that you can stay focused, that you know what your beachhead is, you know how to dominate a specific niche of the market with one feature, with your domain expertise, so you can get in there, land and expand, and then they'll give you the millions of dollars to expand further out and dominate the world. Yes, but they want to know that you're going to use their initial money, the whatever, $500,000, in this case, $675,000 or $1 million, effectively to de-risk the investment and prove that you can get to the next milestone. So we don't have to tell them these are the ABC all the way to the XYZ milestones. You want to get to the first milestone. Take all your alphabet soup and say, we can go from A to B with your money and dominate, and show you that we understand that getting to B is closer to product market fit, whatever inflection point you are in your startup. So don't overload the investor with things that they do not need to see right now. Keep it simple, stupid. That's the KISS principle, and the investor is going to be kissing you because they're going to say, thank you so much. Let's get a next meeting going, and I've got a lot of questions for you. This is the market opportunity slide, which should have been right after your solution slide, but that's okay. And we've got globally, there are 270,000 hotels, 14,500 RV outdoor hospitality parks and 421 cruise ships. We don't have to mention all this information, but it's going to be important. I just don't need it in the summary sentence. And you'll see how I fix this. So we've got all this chunked up in your TAM here, which is fine. Let's just do one monolithic number. And we've got some math saying that they're going to be spending this amount of money and I'm going to be making $4.2 billion annually. That's what you're saying as the founder. Then you got Sam, 900,000 hotels, 15,000 RV parks, and 650 cruises. So you've got a segment that are non-large chain properties. I understand the logic here, non-large chains. That's what you should be putting in the summary sentence, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. And this is the sum, what they can realistically make. We got a sum of $1.2 billion annually. That is a massive sum. You are telling me that your company in the next 5 years is going to be making $1.2 billion. Remember, sum is what you can realistically make. I don't believe it. Your sum, if it's above $100 million, that's going to be fine. That is a unicorn. But you're saying that your sum, which is realistic, is basically 1/4 of your total TAM. And that means you better have an amazing marketing go-to-market strategy to get 25% of your TAM. You see how an investor is going to look at this, they're going to calculate, and they're going to get incredulous. And that's the reason you have to analyze your market properly to show you're a thoughtful founder and you don't get tripped up by investors saying, yeah, your TAM, SAM, SOM does not look right. Don't give them that. Now, there's a difference between your TAM, SAM, SOM is wrong. Nobody's going to actually know this. They're not expecting you to be perfect, but if your logic doesn't look right and they get confused, that's going to be transmitted to you as the founder. In other words, they're going to think that you don't understand how to do this exercise, and that's the last place you want to be. Let's look at the business model. This is how we make money. I'm missing a summary sentence here. This is how we make money. B2B SaaS model. Great. You're saying monthly subscription, which is fine, per month. And then you're explaining the different types of models that you're using. I don't know what this paid annually is. Maybe your model is paid annually. Then don't say you're charging this per month. This is a confusing statement. So I'm going to eliminate this for now. So far, we've got the elements that we need for a business model slide. We just need to tighten this up. Financial projection, don't put this in here. You don't have enough data. If you're pre-seed, don't put your financial projections into your pitch deck. Let's pause for just a moment. I haven't talked about this in a while. Sometimes you're going to get advice. I need to see financials in your pitch deck. I don't believe you have to put that there because most pre-seed founders do not know how to do their financial projections. If you look at this example, let me go back and show you what's something that you notice. Look at these financial projections. They go up and to the right. Well, of course they go up and to the right because you can fudge financial projections all that you want. Now, that's the difference between putting a financial model in place and saying these are the assumptions that we're making. Is that totally important? Well, it depends on your startup. But in most cases, pre-seed, pre-revenue, this startup, to be fair, has a little bit of revenue, but that's not enough to be able to project anything. So an investor's just going to roll their eyes, or they're going to say, well, yeah, I don't believe it. Anybody can say we're optimistic and things are going to go up and to the right. It's just not going to be reality. If there's a reason to put your financial model in there because there's an important breakdown, you got to show margins, you have to explain this is part of our competitive advantage, our financial model, that's great. But other than that, unless you have revenue, unless you're sitting on 1 year of revenue, you don't need to put in financial projections. If you got previous revenue, let's say you got 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you can then extrapolate it and say, this year, we plan to make this amount because it makes sense based upon the previous years. And most likely your graph is going to go a little jagged, look like a little mountain range going up and to the right, hopefully up and to the right. Avoid putting financial projections if it doesn't make sense to put them in there because investors are just going to say, this is kind of an amateur founder that we're talking to. Don't plant that seed into their head. Use financial slides wisely. Moving along, we got a go-to-market slide. Once again, I'm missing the summary sentence explaining how you're doing everything right at the top. And we've got a little bit of funnel that's happening right this way, but it doesn't really make sense. You've just got a laundry list of the different types of tactics, and you're believing that it's going to go in a funnel, 50% conversion. Where's that number come from? Have you actually explained it? I want to see a strategy. Multiple properties, one owner, what does that have to do with anything? I kind of understand what you're trying to accomplish, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're going to put a go-to-market slide out there, it's not just a laundry list of tactics. You need to explain the strategy, and that's why I'm looking for that summary sentence. Competition slide, no summary sentence again. That's going to hurt us. Therefore, I'm going to show you how I put summary sentences on every slide. But there are more competitors out there, and you're going to see how I went and researched, and I told them to add more competitors. Now we got the dimensions, short-term connections. I don't know what that means. To a user, Sure, you might, from an inside perspective, know what that means. I don't know what that means as an investor. Host to guest, guest to guest. Again, big question mark. What does that mean? Language translation, I know what that means, but why do we have this in here if everybody's doing it? Real-time review of location, I kind of understand what that is. Return on investment, what does that mean? Each one of these needs to put a return on investment in terms of to the investors, or is it to the travelers? We haven't explained it. Therefore, this is a very vague competition slide, and we need to tighten this up, and that's what I did. Here's the team slide, away together. I'm not going to make comments. These founders to me are fantastic. We're going to tighten this up. We're missing the summary sentence, but we're going to keep going. Traction. Problem with this slide is I don't see any traction. I see clients, but how is that traction? Are these actual clients that are using your solution? How much money are you making? How many trips have you booked? How many transactions? What is the momentum? And on top of which, I don't know the state of the app. I'm guessing that it's working. Industry partners, what does this mean? How are they partnering with you? You see, we've got so much ambiguity. Tech partners, I don't even know what all these companies mean and how that contributes to traction. Are they paying you money? Are they enabling you to move forward? Awards and global recognition, that's going to be a little bit better, but I still don't understand how this contributes to traction. What did you get an award in? As pretty as all this is with the social proof, it's not telling me anything, and therefore investors are not going to trust that and say, ambiguity, that's preventing me from gaining trust in this slide and in this team and their traction. Finally, we get to the ask. They're seeking $675,000 in capital to expand, 16-month runway. Never talk about your runway, only talk about inflection points of where you're going to go. Sure, this is a standard breakdown that we see. Capital raised so far, which is great. That's what we want to have in there. I don't mind. But what you should be doing is that we are raising X dollars for Y milestones in Z time frame. And I'll show you how I did this in the way that I fix the slide. And then here's your back cover, standard. I'm now going to show you the before and after using all the principles. Full disclosure, I went back and forth with this founder and I asked a whole bunch of questions to get clarification because it wasn't in the original slide deck. And I asked them questions based upon what I know investors are going to be asking, and I tried to answer them ahead of time in my version of the pitch deck. Also, full disclosure, the founders already seen this and they like the deck, so I'm not presenting it to them via this video. There's no surprises here. This is based on them telling me, yes, we like the deck, thank you very much, and they're moving forward. I don't know where their fundraise is at, but you're going to see a clear, marked improvement before and after, and I want you to let me know what you think on how clear this has become, and then you can start to understand how you might be able to fix your pitch deck before and after by seeing the differences. Here we go, cover to slide. So this is the cover, and I want to highlight a smart tech solution for every host. Now we've got this cover, away together, the all-in-one platform for hosts to communicate with guests. Now we're explaining exactly what we do. This is a way better sub-headline. And the art and aesthetic, we decided to move away from the cartoons, but truthfully, I don't mind as long as it's branded. But in this case, the designer was just picking something that they could say, hey, here's a nice art direction for this. It's going to tie everything together. Here's the problem statement. Travelers' experiences are fragmented across multiple platforms, causing the host to fall short in engaging guests effectively. Then we're relying on those 3 bullets. Here's how we changed it. 1.02 million hospitality providers, hotels, B&B hosts, cruise ships lose $873 trillion annually due to ineffective real-time guest engagement and communication. And then we've got these bullet points on the right, outdated, no real-time updates, hosts struggle to translate. Let's check off the main points. Do we know who has a problem? Yes, hospitality providers, including these types of hosts. How big is the problem? 1.02 million of them have this problem because of the scope, real-time guest engagement and communication. They're lacking it, and therefore it's ineffective, which is costing them $873 trillion of pain. Now, $873 trillion of pain, that's a really big number, but it's extrapolated and calculated. So now the investor is going to ask that question, how did you get to this number? And the founders are going to be able to say, we calculated what everybody else would spend if they had real-time communication, and this is the opportunity. Let's move to the solution statement. An all-in-one travel app delivering real-time insights, live connections, direct host engagement that transforms travel planning, on-site experiences, and post-trip sharing. And then we've got these percentages. New solution says it's an all-in-one app delivering real-time communication between hosts and traveling guests to promote local activities and capture lost revenue. Notice in the problem, we said we lost $873 trillion in revenue. And in the solution, we're saying we're going to capture that revenue doing these things that the problem has as far as scope. No real-time communication. Guess what? We have real-time communication. And we've got amenities, dining, attractions, and calendar just to round this slide out. So once again, the solution says what it is and reverse engineers the problem in terms of solving it with the solution. Market opportunity. We're saying here globally, 270,000 hotels, 14,500 RV outdoor hospitality parks, and 421 cruise ships. And remember all the confusion that we had in terms of why. Here's our market slide. 1.1 billion travelers want real-time communication. I'm going to show how big this market really is. But we're going to first focus on the small chain boutique hotels because of our current customers and shorter sales cycles. Remember, I wanted to know why. Why do we have the SAM? Because of some type of business model, strategic advantage, some sort of insight. So we got our TAM, which is all these people, 1.02 hospitality providers. Remember, we mentioned that in the beginning, times the monthly offering. That's how we calculate it. But now we got SAM, which is 1.13 billion, and we're going to focus on the 270,000 small chain boutique hotels. I'm not going in saying I'm going to focus on a segment of the hotels and the segment of the RV parks and a segment of all the cruise ships. I'm just going to dominate one. But eventually, we're going to grow into this TAM. Don't worry. And the SOM is 200 million. We actually did a projection, and the SOM is 200 million if we focus the target market of mini chain hotels. Just the hotels alone is going to make us 200 million. Now, if we add RV parks and we add different types of cruise ships, then we're going to be doing well. And remember, you can always switch this around. Let's say your customer acquisition is better for RV parks. And that's where I think the founder figured how to crack RV parks was switch this around and say, hey, guess what? We found a hack for RV parks, and therefore we're going to make that our SOM, or we're going to make that our beachhead, which is going to get to our SOM. There's so many ways that you can talk about it. Now that you have real world experience, you have battle tested your assumptions, and now you're talking to investors about it. It's no longer pie in the sky market. It is based on our experience market. Next, we have the product slide. And I said that the product slide basically repeats everything that we've said before. So I changed it to say how it works. Hosts customize their app and offer to their guests to these things: offer real-time communication, connect with local businesses, offer a centralized platform for all aspects of the travel experience. Just really straightforward. I didn't repeat anything before. I just explained that the main thing is that the hosts customize their app and they offer to their guests. Business model, no summary sentence right at the top. We say B2B SaaS model, and then we have all this information. Well, I changed it to say we've got two revenue streams. There's subscription, $250 a month to these people, and referral revenue, 5 to 10% to these restaurants, breweries, shops, rentals, etc. Compare the two in terms of ease of understanding. You've got the information up here, and I don't know what paid annually, scaling, number of rooms, camps. We don't have to talk about all that stuff. We're just going to be straightforward. We're charging these people $250 a month, and we're making 5 to 10% off of these venues. Go to market. Remember, this is the laundry list of tactics and information that we really didn't quite understand. Now, this is my slide. Go to market, how we acquire and scale hosts. We're going to do lead generation. Then we're going to target database and outreach, lower cost of acquisition. This is a strategy, a 1, 2, 3-step strategy that becomes part of the funnel versus we're going to do all these things. Yes, this slide says we're going to do all these things, but we're going to explain why we're doing all these things. Competition slide. Remember, I was very confused as to who the competitors were and what the dimensions were. What are short-term connections? Why is language translation there? So we redid this slide, and this was the major overhaul right here. And we have a summary sentence up at the top. Guests want real-time communication app that combines all their travel opportunity service into one place. That is the competitive advantage. Everything is there. Then we got Away Together, Facebook groups included that, property-based apps include that, travel apps, because there are travel apps out there like Expedia, Travelocity, Kayak, you name it. And then we got WhatsApp messaging, and we've got the dimensions that customers want. Customers want to connect with local guests. Yes. Customers want to communicate with their hosts. Yes. Customers want language translation. Property-based apps don't have that, so I took that out there. Local activities directory. Yes, that's what customers want. Customers want real-time peer reviews. They want to know if they show up somewhere, who was the last person was there, and did they rate it 5 stars, or were there problems? And then white label branding, that's what the hosts want, and we only have it on 2 places, Away Together and property-based apps. So you see clear blue check marks and X's show that Away Together consolidates everything into one thing, which confirms our statement up at the top that we are doing it all in one place. Our competitive analysis lines up with the statement and also lines up with a thoughtful process of how we looked at all the direct and indirect competitors. Away Together team, here's the old slide. Away Together team, the new slide. Check out what's most important. Summary sentence. Our team features decades of global marketing travel experience and has worked together for X amount of years. They didn't give me that final number. I was showing this before we put that in there, but I want to show the number of years they worked together so that we can say this team has won because they have worked together and they have domain expertise in the very solution, the industry that we're trying to pitch to investors. And investors say, great, this team not only has the skills, the experience, but they've actually worked together for so much period of time. Now we get to traction. Again, another confusing slide with ambiguous information. How many clients? What's the velocity? I'm going to simplify this down and say our app is currently live, state of the product, and multiple tourism partnerships have been signed. We have 68 hospitality providers, and we're making $5,000 currently MRR. Look at the old slide. There was no revenue whatsoever, but they were making revenue, and they just didn't put it on the traction slide. At least the investor knows you've sold it and you're making revenue. Doesn't have to be a lot of revenue. Now, ideally, we see a little bit of a growth graph here going up and to the right like this, but that's the founder. They're going to have to work on that traction in terms of some metric that's going to make the investor say, now we've got momentum. I would say this is one of the main things that is holding this startup back, and that's momentum. The revenue's there, the partnership's there, the team is there, the problem, solution, market size, it's all there. Make no mistake, just because I tore the pitch deck apart, like I told you, all the raw materials are there. This startup works. The app works. We've got all the missing pieces. We're just missing the momentum. Development is always easy. We don't have the distribution, and that would be the weakest point. So if these founders just went out there and say, we're going to focus on week over week growth, we're going to focus on what is our customer acquisition strategy, what is the distribution model, that's the last piece that falls into place, because you can say we're differentiated. Now look at how the market sees us, and we're getting real customers. And that is the greatest way to level the playing field. Go out and get traction, especially in today's market. And if this startup goes out and gets that traction, I think you're not going to have any problem raising that $675,000. And I'm not saying you have to have $100,000 in MRR. I'm talking about go from $5,000 one week to $5,500 the next week and just continue to grow. Then $6,000 the next week and $6,600. You get the math, 10% week over week growth. Show that momentum, and the investor's going to say, now I'm going to give you money not to figure out how to get customers, but to pour gasoline on the fire so this continues to grow in the way that's going up and to the right. That's the direction you want to be headed in. And like I told you, that is the best way to get investors on board once you've lined everything else up, saying we've got these assumptions, now we're proving it to you, and let our numbers, let our customers do the talking, not just we promise that we're going to get you a lot of customers. Here's the ask slide, seeking this capital, and we just made it really straightforward, raising $675,000 to achieve $3.5 million ARR in 18 months. And then finally, we've got the end slide. We just branded it together to make sure that it lines up and looks really pretty. There you have it. You see the before and after and all my justifications. I've got lots of other videos on this channel to explain why and the methodology, but you're seeing it put into practice. As promised, if you are a founder out there and you've got your own pitch deck that you want critiqued and reviewed, leave a comment and tell me what you are building. There is a process, because so many people want pitch decks reviewed and they're just sending me and inundating me with requests. And I need to make sure that you are doing everything you can to get your pitch deck up to a certain level, so I'm not repeating myself every pitch deck critique and review, and that the content that I'm putting out there for free, because I'm not charging for these things, goes out there and is beneficial, educates the rest of the startup ecosystem. Because I'm going to be spending my time, I want it to benefit everybody out there. If you're part of startups.com, you don't have to wait. You can just get in the queue right away. We've got lots of other resources. I will do a review for you right away. But if you're not part of startups.com, I'm still going to make it accessible for you. We just have an intake process, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll explain to you how to get that done. So leave a comment what you're doing, and I will give you the next directions. Watch some of these other videos that I'm going to have on the screen. I hope this has been helpful. I appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. I will see you in the next pitch deck critique and review.